Welcome to Axial GT. Today we'll be talking about Amazon Game Studios' New World. In this video we'll discuss the facts and what we know so far, with a tad bit of speculation thrown in. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and smash that bell for future Axial GT content. I'll cover all things gaming related. With that, let's begin. Now I will apologize up front, I seem to have developed a sound issue, but I have a new microphone on the way. To start off with, what is New World? New World is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game set in the 17th century. The game will delve into some real-world history, but then twist it with mythology and magic. Amazon Game Studios has been working on New World for over 3 years and counting, and it's Amazon's first major foray into the MMO genre. Players are tasked with exploration, defending conquered lands, and expanding by way of conquering new lands. Next we have the story and setting. As you start New World, you're thrust into the shoes of an adventurer standing on the shores of Eternum, also known as the Eternal Isle. This is where the story dives into the proverbial search for the Fountain of Youth, much like Ponce de Leon did in 1513 in the real world. But in the land of Eternum, it's the mystical substance Azoth that has been rumored to have many magical properties, including granting eternal life. You and the other excursionists set off to probe and explore this newfound land, but you soon find that Eternum is not the utopian wonderland the brochure said it would be. An overbearing force called the Corruption dominates this land, infecting everything in its path, including past adventurers and the Eternal Isle's wildlife, producing many vile creatures and monstrosities. The job tasked to us as the player, and as newly vetted explorers, is to fight back the corruption and tame these wild lands. But you must do so under threat of rival companies, who are also trying to make a name for themselves and stake their own claim to this land. Now as for gameplay, New World is a fast-paced action MMORPG, and the devs said that Dark Souls inspired the combat system. There are 3 major types of combat: the standard melee, physical range, meaning bows, and magical range. Plus, since the game doesn't have a class system, you shouldn't be shoehorned in to one kind of playstyle. And while not exact, it does kind of remind me of the latter Elder Scrolls games. The skills you use the most are the ones you become more proficient in. There are 30 different skill unlocks to choose from, which are divided amongst the weapon mastery, trade skills, faction reputation, territory standing, and one we haven't heard much about, the PvP Elder game. So with so many skill sets and skill trees to advance your character build, you should be able to make your playstyle your own. And it also needs to be said that player skill, technique, and knowledge of the game mechanics are more important than player level. Being a higher level won't mean you can't have your ass handed to you when playing either PvE or PvP. As an example, a level 50 player will not always win in combat against a more skilled level 40 player. Mastery of skills and game mechanics rule the roost in New World. It also has to be considered that the land of Eternum, at launch, will host 1,000 concurrent players per server, with possibly more as time goes along. I will discuss why and get into more specifics about player count and land size later in the video. But in New World, the landmass itself is divided into territories, and each territory is controlled by player companies, and they control everything inside their respective area. They set tax rates, and are in charge of upgrades in the territory, such as upgrading defenses. One of the most interesting aspects comes to fruition when war breaks out between different territories. Let's say an attacking company wants to expand their influence, so they attack a neighboring territory, but offer lower taxes than the defending company. You as the player can choose whether to help defend the land, or help the enemy in hopes of victory and lower taxes. War is decided by way of 50 versus 50 player battles. Once war is declared, each company will draft 50 soldiers to their cause, and a time is set for when players duke it out on the battlefield. Now outside of war zones, you can still initiate player versus player combat, but each player has to opt in and designate themselves open to the open range PvP combat. Now to do this, you must belong to a company, and to join a company you must be level 10. But PvP isn't the only way to hone your skills, because alongside PvP, there is also player versus environment, and it will take the form of fighting off the corruption attacking your land, open world events, world bosses, and questing and farming items and loot. Now we come to the odds and ends. This part of the video consolidates minor things that we know about New World, but really wasn't enough to dedicate an entire section to. First is microtransactions. Yes, there will be an in-game store, where you can spend real-world money, but what is to be in said store has yet to be disclosed. But I'll take a guess and say cosmetic-only items. Given this is Amazon's first major endeavor into the massive multiplayer online genre, the game will be under a very big microscope at beta and launch. I really can't see them putting any game-altering or pay-to-win mechanics in their first game. If they did, it would be a severe detriment, and I do believe Amazon knows this. Next, there are the additions of the game. New World is a buy-to-play MMO, a one-and-done purchase, with the in-game store supporting future content. That being said, there are two editions, the Standard at $39.99 and the Deluxe at $49.99. If you pre-order the Standard Edition, you'll get a secured spot in the beta access, Isabella's amulet, a fist bump emote, a guild crest set, plus a unique title. In the Deluxe Edition, you get what I mentioned before, plus you get the Woodsman Boarding Axe skin, Woodsman Armor skin, the Rock Paper Scissors emote set, a Mastiff house pet, and a concept art book. Now I'll talk a little bit about the beta and player housing. Every player has the ability to purchase their own domicile, a kind of base of operations, and the closed beta will start in April, but a definite date has not been set yet. And as for the actual release and launch of New World, it is officially set to launch in May, but no official word as to when in May. But the Amazon listing has it set to May 26th, and in my opinion, I believe this date will hold true. Now we'll get back into something a little more in-depth when it comes to land size and player counts. In New World, the land of Eternum has a real world designed to support 10,000 players, as the landmass in real world terms is 40 square kilometers. And just to give you an idea in size, Skyrim's map measured 37 square kilometers, but not that we'll ever see those kind of player numbers. As I said earlier in the video, at launch there will be a more manageable 1,000 player count per server. But don't be surprised if that number creeps up as time goes along. And while I couldn't get an official confirmation at the time of making this video, and not for lack of trying, I will speculate that New World will be using Amazon's ECS2 game servers, one of Amazon's newest tech powered by AMD's rightfully named EPYC line of server chips. And while I haven't been pre-ordering games as of late, this is one game that I have bit the bullet and pre-ordered. I am extremely excited for New World. Whether that potential is ever envisioned, only time will tell, and I'm sure I'll be covering more of New World in the future. Hopefully I'll see you out on the battlefield or exploring together. And since partnering with Upper Echelon Gamers, you may see us playing New World together from time to time. So what are your thoughts on Amazon's New World? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future Axial GT content. Your support is much appreciated. Until next time, I'm out of here. You all have a good one.